So today is going to be an adventure. We're going to head out and we're going to drive the farthest we've driven so far. Let's go. You know what? Before we go, let me show you where we're going. So today we're going to go all the way down south. Take a look for a second. So you can see here's the map of Israel. We're starting off in Modi'in, where I live right over here. We're going to drive all the way down south, Here's Beersheba, right over here. We're going to go even farther and make our way, not as far as Mitzpeh Ramon, which is here. We're going to go all the way to Yerucham, which is right there in the heart of the Negev. You can see the Negev is more than half of the land of the state of Israel, but we're going to go and check out what's in the desert today. It's going to be a great day. Let's go. See you soon. Hi, Debbie. Hi, great to finally meet you in person. So, Debbie, thanks for meeting us in the middle of nowhere. This is really...
It's not the middle of nowhere. This is Yerucham.
This is Yerucham. Wait, where are all the houses?
Yes, this is the Yerucham Lake Park.
Got it. Okay. The Lake Park?
Yes.
And where are we going now?
We're going to go to a very special place, to Hagar's well. According to Bedouin tradition, this is the well that was revealed to Hagar when she was expelled with Ishmael from the house of Abraham and Sarah. When they were living in Beersheba. And it says that she wandered in the desert of Beersheba until there's no more water. And no more water in the desert means death. And Hagar puts Ishmael under a bush and separates herself from him, goes a distance away, and then something very dramatic happens. All it says is that an angel appeared to Hagar and opened her eyes, and there was a well.
Wow. And that happened here?
How come she couldn't see the well? I mean, a well, as you can see, is not a small thing in the desert of ancient times when there weren't probably these trees around, certainly not pine trees around. And how come she couldn't see the well? I think the real meaning is psychological. That when you think you're in a dead-end situation, with the emphasis on dead, because no water in the desert means death, you can't even imagine, you're not open to seeing the life that's right under your nose. And what's so amazing about the fact that this well, Hagar's well, the revelation of living water right below your vision, right, is so symbolic. And it's at the entrance of Yerukham. I think it symbolizes, for many, many years, let me say a little introduction, Yerukham was the quintessential development town. If you said Yerukham to someone, they would say, periphery, unemployment, crime, poverty, primitive people, very bad images, which is one of the reasons why, as Avi Chai will tell you, he thought that success is to leave Yerukham. We'll meet him later. But I think the lesson of Hagar's well for all of us is let's be aware of the frames that frame our consciousness and open our eyes to the life that's here under our nose without preconceptions, without stereotypes, because this place is full of life. It's the same with the Negev desert. Many groups that come to the desert say, oh yeah, yellow sand, barrenness, nothing. But if you look more deeply, you can see, wait, there's green there. Wait, there's different colors there. Wait, there's different textures. Wait, there's an animal. There's a bird that just went by. There's life here. The life, especially at night, is teeming. But you have to open your eyes to see it. You have to open your heart to the life that's here. And once the Hagar got that gift from the angel to open her eyes and see the well, after telling her not to be afraid, the first thing the angel says to her is, go pick up your son. Don't throw away what's precious to you. You're going to continue in him and his children and his grandchildren. And then she was able to come back to life in many more ways than one. And I think that this is a gift that the desert has given me. You see, just a bird just went by there, right? To be aware of the need to make an effort, not to be imprisoned in your own stereotypes, and not to be enslaved by your preconceptions, but to open your heart and your mind and your eyes to the life that's under you, not to be enthralled by superficial appearances, not to be satisfied with how things look on the outside, but always to seek the life that's underneath. The same with the desert, the same with Yerucham, the same with Israel, and the same with the people that you encounter.
Wow, Debbie, that's quite an introduction. We haven't even said hello yet. But before anything else, you said we're on the periphery. One, where are we? What does that mean, the periphery? And two, what's your story? How did you get here? Are you originally from Yerukham?
No. No. Where we are geographically, that's north, towards Jerusalem. But over the hill here is the road to Beersheba, which is about 25 minutes drive today. When I first came here about 34 years ago, it was a longer drive. If we go this way, so you'll see the road to Sde Boker, where Ben Gurion's cabin is. And that road has been in constant use for 3,500 years. It was a main artery of one of the spice roads that crisscrossed the Negev. Sure. There's a Nabatean, Roman, and Byzantine Yerucham that's been partially excavated right at the edge of this lake park. That way is east towards another natural wonder of Yerucham, Machtesh Yerucham.
The geological erosion craters that are just down the road. Got it.
Yeah. So one of the most beautiful in my mind is the one right here outside of Yerukham. I was born in Boston, and my parents, my mother is a third-generation Bostonian. My father, my late father, was a fourth-generation born in Israel, born in the land of Israel, a Palestinian Jew.
Wow. And
they met, he was a rabbi and a Talmud scholar, and my mother, a Jewish educator. They met in Boston. He was her teacher. After she graduated, they got married.
Nice.
From the Hebrew College. And I grew up in a house then that was very connected to the land of Israel, to Hebrew, to Jewish things. And it was just a matter of time, I felt, till I would come to Israel. And I was at the University of Illinois and at Spertus College of Judaica. I came on a one-year program at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in 1970-71. That was the year that the Israeli Black Panthers came on the scene.
Sure.
And we were living in Chicago. We knew what Black Panthers were, and suddenly there were Black Panthers in Israel. And I studied with some wonderful teachers at Hebrew University who opened my eyes to the social and cultural gaps in Israeli society that broke my heart. We didn't wait for 2,000 years to come back here to beat each other's throats, and it made me determined to study the heritage of the Jews from North Africa and Asian countries, Islamic countries that I had never heard of when I was growing up in Boston or Chicago, practically never. And it was also an opportunity for me to every Shabbat and go to a different ethnic synagogue. So Rosh Hashanah, I was with the Jews of Yanina from Greece. On Yom Kippur, I was with Jews from Iraq in the center of the city. The shul doesn't exist anymore. On Sukkot, I went to Kurdish shul, and then the end of Simchat Torah, I was in a Persian shul in Bukharan Quarter.
Wow.
And I was intoxicated by so many ways to be Jewish, by so much wealth, cultural wealth. And all of this was part of our story that I had never, ever been exposed to before. And I felt determined to study the history and the heritage of Jews from Asian and African countries and to see what I could do to bring things together in Israel. In 1972, I started an MA at the Institute of Contemporary Jewry on Jews from Asia and Africa. And coming to Yerukham was like another step up in my Aliyah. Here we are at the Statue of Identity. It was created by Ezra Orion, the late sculptor from down the road in stable care in 1980s as something that would identify the town from afar. The truth is that the Statue of Identity actually stands at a crossroads, or the crossroads of identity, layers of identity of Yerucham. From the mountain range there that has a cultic site from 5,000 years ago, the road that goes beneath there, south to stable care, and then onto the Egyptian border, that's been in use for over 3,500 years, maybe more. The time of the patriarchs, the well where we first met, the well that tells the story of Hagar from the family of Abraham, down to the time of the First Temple period, when just 2 years ago we started to excavate First Temple period, Yerukham, that was conquered possibly by Shishak, king of Egypt, who came out of Egypt and went up to Jerusalem and mentions Yerucham in hieroglyphics in a stela, a victory stela that he put up at Karnak in Egypt, to Yerucham of the Second Temple period, where it was a Nabatean, Roman, and Byzantine way station on the spice roads that crossed the Negev, went from Saudi Arabia to the Mediterranean, and down through contemporary times when the road from Beersheba was actually called the oil road, because the British during the Mandate period were looking for oil all over the Middle East and also here in Israel. And one of the places they were looking was in Machtesh Yerucham, the crater, the erosion crater to the east of Yerucham. And this area was also used by the Palmach for training and maneuvers. And then right where we're standing, a little bit over to there and down along the crest of this hill, was Yerucham of 1951, the modern Yerucham, founded as the first transit camp for new immigrants far from the center of the country and from any existing settlement, in the middle of nowhere, because of its proximity to the Machtesh and the raw materials in the Machtesh, and because of its strategic importance, overlooking the road from Beersheba to Eilat that went at that time along the main street of Yerucham and down through the Machtesh to Eilat. In the 1950s, that was the beginning of Yerucham. January 1951, first immigrants who came here were Holocaust survivors from Romania. And then came immigrants from India and Persia and Morocco and other North African countries. In the early to mid 60s, there was a huge influx that tripled the amount of population in Yerucham, and the apartment blocks that you see here were built in the 1960s for that immigration. But in the 90s, with the huge influx of Jews from the former Soviet Union, 3 new neighborhoods were built. And that's something that you can begin to see here in Yerucham that also changed the population in Yerucham. There are now something like 25% of the population are Jews from the former Soviet Union, besides the Jews from North Africa and Persia and India and other countries that are here. And then if we move forward in time, you can see part of the industrial zone, the Perigo, which is an American firm, pharmaceuticals company. They have their R&D here in Yerucham, and the Amelia Cosmetics, which have done very well because of alcohol gel and the corona pandemic. The young adults center here, the caravans on the hill here, are the Ayalim student village, and right next to it, a pre-army preparatory program called Mechinat Yerucham that brings young men and women here for a half year of preparatory volunteering and study before they join the army. And now below us and around us, all around us, are the villas that the children and grandchildren of the people who came here in the 50s and 60s have built. And new residents are also building, like the villas that are along here. And with the move of the IDF to the south of Israel, there's been a big burst of construction in most of the cities, and Yerucham is no exception. Here we also have a very good view of one of the clumps of settlement of the Bedouin around Yerucham, Rahma, actually, who gave the name to Yerucham because of the well of mercy, Hagar's well. There's so much promise. The desert, one of the things that characterizes it is the meeting of sky and earth, and the sense that there's so much sky, there's so much possibility, but the real treasure of Yerucham are its people. And now we're going to meet some of the wonderful people who live here and their stories. We're going to meet Leah Farjun Greenberg, who's one of our culinary queens. נו, זה חדש, זה מספור, תמיד היה, אבל זה מספור. אוקיי. נזכיר המנכה שלי מישהו מזה. המדע שלה? אוי,
So Debbie, thanks for making this wonderful introduction. Leah, shalom. Hi, Leah.
Shalom.
Thank you for inviting us into your home.
באהבה רבה.
And I don't think I had to translate that. Ba'ava rabba, with all the love. So we wanted to ask you, Leah, what is your story? Where are you from? Where's your family from?
נולדתי וגדלתי במושב ברכיה, מושב ליד אשקלון. זה מושב שרובו עולים מג'רבה. עולים, אני אומרת עולים, זה כבר 70 שנה עולים, אבל אנשים שבאו מג'רבה בתוניס. ג'רבה זה אי בדרום תוניס. אבי נולד בג'רבה, והוא עלה לארץ ב-47, עוד בעלייה בלתי לגלית. הוא הלך עם עוד שני אחים שלו לצרפת, נסע לצרפת, ומצרפת הם עלו בספינת מעפילים, הגיעו, בחיפה נתפסו ונשלחו לקפריסין. התקופה שהוא היה שם השפיעה עליו מאוד מאוד. הוא פתאום נפתח לעולם, הוא ראה אנשים מכל מיני עדות, מכל מיני יהודים חילונים ודתיים, יהודים מאירופה ויהודים מצפון אפריקה, הוא פתאום התוודע לעולם, וזה עשה לו קצת סדר בדרך החיים שלו.
Wow, it's so interesting. So your father, when he was sent to the imprisonment camp, the British internment camp on Cyprus, is when he was actually opened up to the world.
לפי החוויות שלו, הייתה לו חוויה מכוננת שם. הוא בא יחד עם עוד שני אחים. כשאח אחד ברח לארץ, הוא הצליח לברוח מקפריסין לארץ, ובארץ נכנס ישר לפלמח, ליפתח פלמח, ומיד נשלח לקרבות שלפני מלחמת העצמאות, ונהרג בקרבות על גזר, מבואות ירושלים.
וואו.
גם התקופה שהוא היה בטירת צבי השפיעה מאוד מאוד על ההוואי שלו. הוא אהב מאוד את השירה של בני עקיבא, והוא חדורת את השירה, את התפילות, הוא אהב מאוד מאוד את הסגנון, אם כי לא שכח את הפיוטים ואת הכל, הוא היה מין מאבק פנימי שלו בין החלק שהוא רוצה ללמוד את ישראל החדשה, לבין השימור של המנטליות והשירה והמוזיקה.
Wow, interesting.
והיה מאבק.
So there's a tension there, you said. There's a tension between the new and the old.
נכון. ב-49 ההורים שלו הגיעו למחנה העולים בבנימינה, בשער עלייה, ואז הוא קיבל ידיעה שההורים שלו הגיעו, ואז הוא עזב את טירת צבי והגיע לשער עלייה, הגיע אליהם לאוהל. שם אמא שלו שאלה אותו, אנחנו רואים, התחבקו והכל, לא התחבקו, שם לא מתחבקים, סליחה, לא מתחבקים בזה, אבל אהבו וסעודה ומה שאפשר היה לעשות, ואז היא אמרה לו, ראיתי את אח שלך משה, איפה אח שלך שמואל? ואז היא הבינה, וזה צער מאוד מאוד גדול. זה היה מאוד קשה, אבל הג'רבאים הם גם לא מדברים על המת. אז היה מין שקט פנימי של אחרי הצער הגדול והנורא. באותו רגע היא החליטה את נתן אני חייבת לחתן אותו עכשיו שלא יתגייס לצבא הסדיר. ואז היא שאלה אותו, אמרה לו אין לי גפרורים להדליק את הפתיליה. לך למשפחה שמה, אתה רואה את המשפחה, יש שם משפחה אחת דתית שהיא הבינה שהם דתיים. תשאל אותם אם יש להם גפרורים. היא שאלה אותו אחרי שהוא נתן את הגפרורים, נכון יש להם שם קצת בנות? ראית שם את הבנות? הוא אומר כן. יש אחת שאולי הסתכלת עליה, אז הוא אומר כן. הוא התכוון על אחותה צעירה יותר, אבל היא הלכה אליו, לאבא שלה, ושאלה אותו, או שאבא שלה, אני לא יודעת בדיוק איך זה היה, אז אבא שלה אמר, אני אתן את הבחירה, לא את הצעירה. לא בגלל שהיא צעירה, אלא למשפחה שלכם ג'רבאים, אתם שקטים, אתם נעימים, יותר מתאימה לכם הבת הבחירה. עד יום מותו, אבא שלי אמר, אני לא צריך מפעל הפיס. לא צריך לקנות כרטיס הגרלה, אני קיבלתי את שלי. ככה אנחנו הרגשנו את האהבה, אף פעם לא ראינו מגע בין ההורים שלי. הם היו ביישנים מאוד, לא ראינו מגע, אבל אהבה כל הזמן נצצה ביניהם. הערכה במיוחד.
He won the lottery with your mother, and then what happened?
אחרי חודשיים הם היו נשואים. עוד בג'רבה, הייתה להם הכשרה ציונית, והם ידעו קבוצה שהם הולכים לייסד מושב בישראל.
Oh wow, so they had...
הרב שלהם, היה להם רב שהוא היה ציוני מאוד 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 נלהב, חרדי, שמרן, אבל ציוני. יצאו מהמחנה עולים והקימו את המושב. החיים במושב, הם מספרים על כל הקשיים, אבל זה ודאי קשיים של ייסוד המושב, הם לא קלים. אבל במשפחה שלנו, כל שנה היה ילד. כל שנה ככה היו להם 13 ילדים. בבית מאוד מאוד קטן. הבתים מאוד קטנים, הצמידות של כולנו אחד עם השני הייתה מאוד, מאוד בולטת. כמובן שלא הייתה מיטה לכל אחד, יש לנו 4 ילדים במיטה וגם על הרצפה, והיה מאוד קשה. עד עם זה, השאיפה שלהם עוד מחוץ לארץ, לחנך להשכלה. תמיד פוש קדימה את הילדים. איך עושים את זה כשאין לנו גם שולחן להכין שיעורי בית? עם כל זה, שירי שבת כמו בטירת צבי. אנחנו ככה מפוזרים, וכמו בטירת צבי אנחנו שרים שירי שבת. יותר מאוחר הוא התחיל, חזר לפיוטים, הוא התחיל לשלב את הפיוטים בתוך השירי שבת. אבל תקופה ארוכה אנחנו שרנו שירי שבת ואהבנו, ולאט לאט ככל שהמשפחה גדלה יותר, אז השירי שבת היו יותר מחממים את הלב, יותר קולות. עכשיו, כשלא היה כסף, העבודה בחקלאות היא מאוד מאוד קשה, היה מאוד מאוד קשה, הוא מעולם לא הלכה לסעד לקבל, כי היא ידעה שהיא צריכה לפרנס את הילדים שלה. עם זה הם ידעו שהילדים שלהם יהיו מורים. אנחנו באמת 13 אחים, כולנו עוסקים בחינוך. כשהיינו למדנו במכללות, לא היה לנו כסף לשלם. אז קיבלנו הלוואה. ההלוואה תהיה מותנית בזה שאנחנו נלך לעבוד לאן שישלחו אותנו. אני נשלחתי לדימונה, גאולה נשלחה לירוחם. אבל אני המשכתי, אחרי סיימתי את המחויבות שלי, המשכתי, עברתי לבאר שבע, עברתי לירושלים, התחתנתי והסתבכתי כלכלית אחרי הנישואים, וגאולה הציעה לי לבוא לירוחם. כי היא אמרה לי, כי אם הם מכרו לך את הבית, אז כאן את יכולה לקבל סיוע עם החזר שכר דירה. ככה אני פה יחד עם אחותי, יחד עם גאולה. במיוחד דבר אחד שאני רוצה לציין, שאנחנו כל ראש חודש מתכנסים בבית של ההורים ועושים שיעור. כל פעם מישהו אחר נותן שיעור, כולם הרי משכילים, וגם הילדים שלנו משכילים, אז כל פעם אנחנו עושים שיעור. קשיים היו המון, גם מנטליים וגם כלכליים, כדי להשלים הכנסות, משהו מהחקלאות. אבא שלי עבד גם שמירה בלילות. אבל הם ידעו דבר אחד, שהם מחנכים את הילדים שלהם לא להפסיק לימודים, להמשיך וקדימה. אבל כשאח שלי, יאיר, לא יכול היה ללמוד. עד כיתה ט' הוא לא יכול, היה היפראקטיבי, רק אז לא היה לזה שם. והוא הפסיק ללמוד בכיתה ט' והוא הלך לעבוד. ואימא שלי אמרה לו, אני יודעת, אתה עכשיו לא יכול, אתה תגדל, אתה תוכל ללמוד. וגם הוא הבטיח לעצמו, אני אגדל, אני אלמד, עכשיו אני לא יכול ללמוד. לפני שבועיים הוא קיבל את התואר שלי שלו סוף סוף. הוא אמר, הייתי צריך את אימא שלי כדי להגיד לה שההבטחה שלה שהבטיחה לעצמה, הוא יגדל, הוא ילמד. היא הלכה למורה שלו, אמרה לו, יקבר הוא יתעקל. הוא יגדל, הוא יבין. עכשיו הוא קשה לו להבין. אחד הדברים שהוא אומר בדמעות, אני מצטער שאימא שלי לא יכלה להראות את זה.
Did you stay a teacher in Yerukham?
באתי לכאן בתור מורה, 10 שנים עבדתי, עדיין בקשיים כלכליים עצומים, קשיים שלא מהעולם הזה, ואז הייתי צריכה לצאת ממצב כלכלי מאוד מאוד קשה, הייתי צריכה להתפטר מעבודה, לקבל את כל הפיצויים, לתת למי שצריך, והתגרשתי כמובן, והתחלתי את החיים בהתחלה. רגע לפני הפרישה, חיפשתי מה אני יכולה לעשות, וביקשתי להצטרף לאחת הקבוצות שמטיילות, וראיתי את הכניסה לאוכל, לאירוחים שעתיד במדבר מארגנים, ואז הבנתי, זה מה שאני רוצה לעשות. וזאת למה? כי כשהיינו עם אמא שלי כל כך הרבה, אנחנו 9 בנות, היא חילקה אותנו משימות ביום שישי. תמיד המשימה שלי הייתה להיות איתה במטבח. העבודה הכי קשה, הכי מאתגרת, כי היא לא נגמרת כמו לצחצח נעליים, היא לא נגמרת כמו לנקות את השירותים, אבל העבודה במטבח היא לא נגמרת.
So, Leah, what are you cooking here?
אני מכינה מקלובה.
מקלובה.
בערבית מקלובה זה הפוכה.
In Arabic, Leah is saying that makluba means upside down.
כן, אני שמה את האורז מעל הירקות המטוגנים. יש פה בטטה, eggplant, mushrooms, בטטה and potatoes, שום, garlic.
Oh wait a second though. Where's the meat? Isn't makluba come with meat?
אבל זה vegan. I have a vegan daughter and vegetarian daughter, so most of the time I do it without. ואז אני מוסיפה לכאן את האורז, I add the rice here, and tomorrow I'll put it in the plate for some hours, and then when I want to serve it, so I opposite down.
Oh, interesting.
In a big plate. היא הגיעה אתמול מהצבא.
Oh, wonderful.
היא באה לרגילה, אחרי שחודשיים לא הייתה.
So, what is your daughter's name?
Esther.
Esther, Leah's daughter, came back from the army yesterday. After how long was she in the army?
חודשיים.
2 months. She's an officer, right? She's an officer, and she came 2 months. She hasn't been home.
החברה שלה, מפקדת, הייתה חולה, אז היא הייתה צריכה להחליף אותה.
Wow, all of the holidays because her friend, who's also a commander, was sick, and she had to replace her.
כן.
Wow, she must be. Is she still sleeping?
היא ישנה במיטה שלי וישנה כפיות.
They slept together last night.
עם עוד 4 חברים, ובדרך שלהם צפונה, היא הזמינה אותה פה לאכול, אני ידעתי קודם, אז הכנתי כבר את האוכל בשבילם, והכנתי גם לאכול לשבת. והכנתי אתמול גם טבעוני, גם צמחוני, גם בסדר.
Now it's okay?
It's
No, it's okay. Okay, so Leah was saying before, sorry, we had to come in the kitchen. She had to make sure that the rice was okay. But she was, and it works nicely because she was saying that of the 9 daughters that were in the house, her job was to be with her mother in the kitchen. She was the sous chef.
ותמיד התלוננתי. למה אני במטבח? כי זו עבודה שלא נגמרת, כמו צחצוח נעליים למשל, או כמו לנקות שירותים למשל. אלה עבודות שנגמרות מתישהו. עבודה במטבח לא נגמרת. ואמא שלי אמרה לי, לאה, תרוויחי את העבודה הזאת. למדתי לבשל את הבסיס, למדתי ממנה. אני לא אשכח. כשהייתה מבשלת היא אומרת לי, לאה, זה היסוד של האוכל. היא הייתה מכינה את הרוטב הראשוני, זה היסוד, חמודה הייתה אומרת, זה יסוד של הכנת האוכל. אז אני למדתי ממנה לא מעט, למדתי, התווכחתי איתה, גם רבנו קצת, שמתי יותר מדי מים, לא עשת מים, אבל את הבסיס למדתי. ואני מאוד שמחה להיות בתוך הפרויקט הזה של הנשים המבשלות בירוחם, שזה פרויקט, בשבילי זה בדיוק כפפה ליד.
I've asked Leah and Debbie to share some of the sounds of Leah's home, both her home now, but also the home of her childhood. And it's actually interesting. I don't think, Debbie, you're not from Jerba, are you?
Not at all.
So where did you learn these tunes?
From her parents and her sisters.
כי מהנעורים יתנני, אקרא אל אלוהיו ויענני, יעברו לנפשי עיתות קדומות, על גמן לבושי ויחמדני, רעני ידידי ויחמדני, ישים מעבודות לרקע.
Kum va'aseh ma'aseh. Get up and do something. Take action. That was a line that Leah's father used to teach them, and clearly she has taken real action. Leah, תודה רבה לך, באמת, היה ממש כיף, ורק בשמחות.
ואני אשמח לראות אתכם בשנה הבאה, אולי לפני.
Great, we hope to see you next year as well. Bye.
To the house of Avi Chai Study-Sabbatical and his wife Einat. He's born and bred in Yerucham. His father is from Morocco. He'll tell you the story. He's a musician, and he's also on the staff of Bamidbar, but he also works at Ben-Gurion University. He's a very interesting guy, and I'm sure we'll enjoy our time with him together.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful. Avi Chai, thanks so much for having us in your home. We know it's Friday afternoon, getting ready for Shabbat. Everybody's cleaning, the neighborhood's up and around, getting things ready, and we really appreciate it. What is your story? Where are you from? Where's your family from?
So I was born and raised in Yerucham. I'm 35 years old, and both of my parents came from Morocco. When they were little kids, my father was 6 years old when he came to Israel from a small village in the desert in Morocco named Tenrir. And my mother, she came when she was 5 years old from Casablanca. Both of them came to Yerukham. They didn't ask to come to Yerukham. My mother was raised in Migdal HaEmek in the north. It's also a developing town. And my father came here.
When did they come?
The 60s.
The 60s.
Yeah.
62, 63.
62 and 63. Yeah, they came to Israel 1 year.
1 year apart.
Yeah, apart.
And did they meet here?
They meet in the army.
Oh wow.
Yeah, IDF. My mother served in Beersheba, and my father also served there. And they met there, and they got married and came to live in Yerukham.
What was it like for them coming as new immigrants? What was the process they went through? I'm sure there were a lot of stories growing up that you heard from them.
Yeah, they came to Israel. Didn't choose to come to to the desert in middle of nowhere. They thought at the beginning that they will go to a big city in Israel, like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. Especially my father's family, all of them, when they came to Israel, they came a year before my father's family came, and they went to live in Ashdod. So my father's family asked also to live in Ashdod, and they told them, okay, so go to the truck and we'll take you to Ashdod. And they went to the truck, and they just drove, and they let them here.
They just dropped them off in Yerucham instead of in Ashdod?
They dropped them off in middle of nowhere. I don't think it was Yerucham in those years. Yerucham established in 1951, and it even didn't call the Yerucham. It called the Tel Yerucham, Barat Yerucham.
It wasn't a city.
Far Yerucham,
right.
City
It was like
of Yerucham.
a very small town.
It was very small.
And also, there was a second Ma'abara, a second transit camp for new immigrants. The first one was built in the 50s, 1951 through 57 or 8. That's when immigrants came there. 62 to 64, there was an influx from North Africa, including his father's family, and there was a second transit camp of cabins for new immigrants. So they didn't even come to a house. They came to asbestos cabins in a part of Yerukham that wasn't yet developed. Now it's the cultural center where the Jewish community center is. But then
So what's your father's name?
Yossi.
Yossi. So Yossi gets on the truck.
Yeah.
They say you're going to Ashdod, a nice beachfront community, and he gets off in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up here?
But he didn't ask to come, and they also have a very difficult, if someone wants to go out from Yerukham to live in other place, it was very hard at the beginning of the first years that Israel was established, to move from one city to another. The government make it very difficult for them. And this is the story that I grew up with. So my father came to Israel, and they sent him to live in a place that he didn't want to go there, and they didn't allow him to move from this place. And he, at the beginning, when he came to Israel, he lived in a tent, and then in a asbestos cabin. And as a kid, when I grew up here, if you could go out from Yerukham, you consider as a successful guy. So, and it never mattered to where, even to Beersheba, okay? But to
leave Yerucham.
Just leave Yerucham. Yeah. So the goal was not to study to be a successful guy, is to study and to get a degree or the education that you need to move from Yerucham to the center of Israel.
If, and I've heard this from many people, not just from you, the mark of a successful person is someone who left Yerukham in the past. How come your parents, after they got married, decided to move back here?
It's very easy. Job. My father served in the Israel army about 50 years. No, it's not 50, 45 years. And he was serving here. At first, he was serving in Yerukham. In Yerukham, when Bamidbar is located, before was an army base. And after, he was serving in Beersheba, and this was his job. So he couldn't left his job, and my father didn't finish school and wasn't educated. So army, this is what he had. And my mother come from the north. She know the environment. She grew up also in kind of a city like Yerukham, Migdal HaEmek and Yerukham. It's like sister in a different place in Israel. So she know where she is coming to, and the main reason is the job, and second, they have family here. And I think that at the beginning they couldn't afford themselves to live in other places. Okay.
So they came back, but you have your whole life ahead of you. But I see that you're settling here. You're building a home in Yerukham. Why didn't you leave? I thought leaving is a success sign.
Actually, I tried.
Oh, okay.
I have a dream. I'm a musician. Originally, I'm a musician. Now I'm working. I was working a lot of years in education area, and now I'm working.
He's modest. He was the director of the youth department here in
Got it. Okay. Nice.
and I'm now working in a program named Cadets for the Local Municipality, who's trained students to work in municipalities, a weak municipalities in the periphery, and to help them to growth. But after I finish my army, I want to go to Tel Aviv. I want to move to Tel Aviv. I moved to Tel Aviv, and I try to be there, and I try to do music because this is what I like, and in my soul I'm a musician, and just an opportunity. The director of the community center in Yerukham called me, and he asked me to come and to establish a new project in Yerucham, which has that have a very connection to music, and I was in love with the idea, and I told to myself, okay, let's go back to Yerucham for 1-2 years, save some money, and then go back to fulfill your dreams. And when I came back to Yerucham, something changed. All of my points of view changed. I saw a different city. This is not the city that I grew up in. So I started to work in education and music. I worked with the music to educate kids, and I was in love in the community. And just for me, now Yerukham is a little bit different. It's different from the city that I grew up.
So, you know, I see that you have electric guitar and acoustic guitar, but you also have an oud here. How did you get to the oud? Why that?
When you moved to Tel Aviv, what music were you playing?
Rock.
You were playing rock?
Yeah.
Do you have a little something you could play for us that you remember from your days in Tel Aviv?
Wow. When I grew up, my father wants to integrate in the Israel mentality. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have in my home authentic music. I didn't have oud. I didn't hear the Moroccan music. I heard the rock, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Scorpions, and all of that kind
classic
of music.
Moroccan music.
Classic Moroccan. Yeah,
Rock
classic.
Music.
So this was like rap, and I remember myself just starting to learn classics.
Nice.
So this kind of music I grew up with, and when I came back to Yerukham, I want to know what is the place that I came from. So I went to a journey to explore my identity, and especially my musical and family identity. So I started to learn about music and to love music, and I met the oud, and I also play classic guitar. So the strings is the same, but the way that you play it is totally different. I have a friend that told me that to move from guitar to oud is harder than to start from the beginning to play in oud, because you need to forget everything that you know about classic music, and because the rock and the classic music is very straight, and authentic music have something else.
Nice.
So I started to explore, and I went back to my roots in Morocco, to synagogue. I went to hear piyutim and traditional Jewish songs, and just love it. And
so,
for me,
do you have something you could play for us?
Yeah, I'll take something. For me, it's not just an authentic music, because you can play also Arabic music and Egypt music and songs from Jordan to Syria and stuff like this. I connect everything to tradition, to Jewish. So I have a band. It's not a band; it's an ensemble. And we play piyutim. And what we're doing actually is to combine between the two of the worlds, this and that together. So we can play piyut named Ozreni El Chai and mixed it with the frame of Pulp Fiction. So
All right. What do you got?
if the piyut is okay, this is the piyut. Okay, so we are not playing it like the traditional way. We add these spices from we combine from two words, so it starts like this. Okay. So, and we take two songs and combine them together. So we have also electric guitars in our bands, and oud, and tabla, and darbuka, and percussions.
Tabla is the Indian, 2 drums.
And flute, and Indian flute, so a lot of together. Again, when I came back to explore my musical roots, so I went to especially Moroccan music, but not only, and mix it with the songs that I've heard at the synagogue. Okay, like we have a very known song that wrote Samuel Maghrabi named Omri Man Sak Yamama. So it's like and from the shul, from the synagogue, from the Chazara of the Tfilat 18, it's So I achieved 2 goals in one frame.
Yeah.
I also learned my authentic Moroccan music, okay, and I also connected to the tefillah, to the Jewish tradition, to shul, to synagogue. So 2 of them together, and we're doing it a lot. Also taking a very famous to adopt melodies, from known songs to also to the word of the piyut. Okay, so from rock and also from Israel songs.
What do you have from Israeli songs?
Israel songs. It's very known songs. It's a piyut named Yigdal Elohim Chai. That when I went to shul, I met them at the first time with a very traditional Moroccan melody. That also was borrowed, from Israel song named Marlene. So, Yigdal Elokim Chai Ve'ishtabach. So I ask myself if those 2 words can mix the Olam HaChol and Olam HaKodesh.
The secular world.
Yeah, the secular world and the holy world and the world of holiness. And I ask myself who is affected from this mixed. And I didn't have the answer, but I decided to also do it because it's good. So I take also a song that Omer Adam, very, very famous, Shne Meshugayim. It's
2 crazy people.
Yigdal Elokim Chai Ve'ishtabach נמצא ונטל מציאותו אחד אין יחיד כייחודו נעלם וגם אין זרוך אליו קדושתו קדמו לכל דבר אשר נברא ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו no אדון עולם and etc.
Wow. You know, it's amazing, Avi Chai. It sounds as if the music is the embodiment of who you are, and you are the embodiment of who your music is. It's an incredible way to see that that meeting in the middle, just like your music.
Thank you.
I think you're also continuing a very ancient Jewish tradition of Jews, when they were scattered all over the world, they took the tunes and the melodies from their non-Jewish neighbors and incorporated them into the davening, into the prayers. And I think this is an experiment that Jews have done all the years to blend their tradition with the traditions of the people around them. And you're doing a wonderful work. His ensemble, I wish you could hear, Uri. I moved to tears by a lot of the music that I hear them play.
Well, maybe next year when Ari comes with his friends,
absolutely,
we'll come down here
with the ensemble.
And we won't drop in on Friday afternoon when it's time for Shabbat cleaning up.
Yeah.
But we really appreciate this. Bemet, Avi Chai.
What's the name of your ensemble?
El Maghreb.
El Maghreb.
Yeah, which is also they have two meanings. El Maghreb is the West, because this is how Morocco called in all of the Arabic countries, because this is the western country in Africa, and the El Maghreb, the West, is also what we are bringing. We're bringing two words that combine together: authentical Mizrahi music and the music from the West, like we did before. So
that's great. Yofi, toda rabba. Thank you. And till next time, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Wow, Debbie, it's been a wonderful day. We've really had a chance to see the pulsating heart of Yerucham, at least part of it, with the people who are here. But we didn't want to leave Yerucham before we came to see where the ideas happen, where creativity happens, and where the magic happens. And that's where we are now, at Atid Bamidbar.
Yes.
What is this place?
You're in the Atid Bamidbar Center.
What does Atid Bamidbar mean?
The future is in the desert. 30 years ago, Leah Shakdiel and people from different ethnic groups in the town, together with us, the Indian community, Moroccan, Romanian, Russian, and others, joined together, and we had founded the Atid Association, which was the first attempt here in Yerukham to document the stories of all the people who came here from so many countries. Yerucham is like a microcosm of Israeli society and has representatives of almost every ethnic group that has come to Israel. And that diversity and the richness of the stories hadn't been documented. And we also felt that it wasn't right, it wasn't just, that the voices of the people who came here in the mass immigrations to Israel wasn't heard. They weren't just stand-ins on the stage of history. They were people with dreams, sometimes dreams that got broken in the process, but sometimes they felt they were always realizing their dreams. And their stories are very important to us and to the future generations that come here. We felt it was a way to connect the diverse communities that are here in Yerukham, and maybe to fix the Zionist story, the narrative of the settlement of the Negev, and give the development towns their proper place. And Yerukham, as the first development town in this part of the Negev that was founded far from any settlement, as a transit camp for immigrants, far from any existing town. At that time, we began documenting stories. We have an archives, a town archives, and creating programming that would bring the stories together and bring people together to discuss how they felt about the past, how they feel about the present, and what they think of when they want to think about a future together. That was the germ of Atid, and after Rabin's assassination, now we're going to mark 25 years. It felt like society Israeli society was falling apart, right and left, and mutual hatred, and religious and secular. And on the other hand, here in Yerucham, Tammy Beaton and I, Dr. David Beaton's wife, and
Dr. David Beaton, who is a friend of Ari Katz from
yes.
university days at Hebrew U.
Yes.
It all comes together.
Yes,
Very nice.
yes.
Okay.
So I knew Tammy's parents, Professor Avi and Ruti Ravitsky from Jerusalem. They were active in the religious peace movement that I think I mentioned was part of what brought me here. And she came on a special Nachal program, an army service program that combines civilian duty in the town with military duty. And she was a soldier teacher. And we became very good friends. On the one hand, we wanted a place that could enable people to engage with their Jewish and Israeli identity from diverse backgrounds, but also maybe show the world that here in Yerukham it's possible to live together without being at each other's throats. And the message that we tried to create was Bamidbar. Why was the Torah given in the desert? Because it's a no man's land. It belongs to nobody and therefore to everybody. And it's something that every Jew can connect to. It's something that every human being can connect to, because it wasn't even given in the land of Israel. It was given in the desert. It's the place that maybe if you're quiet and open yourself up, you can hear God speaking. And it's the place where you can learn to speak to each other. And I think that that's behind the Bamidbar, Beit Midrash Yotzer, a creative Beit Midrash in Yerucham. In 2004, both programs merged and became something that all of us believe in, that the future is here in the desert. Our rabbis said, evil will come from the north, but wisdom will come from the south. And the story is much wider than any one sector or population group. We feel we're grappling with one of Israel's most dangerous challenges, which is the lack of mutual solidarity and mutual dependence or responsibility. But like everyone should feel good in their own identity, sure, and good with other identities. And like this is their place, okay? Like they have a place in this place. This is what we're trying to do here, is to create the environments and the programming where people will get to know others' emet, others' truths, not in a simplistic, relativistic, shallow sense, but in a very deep sense that we all have, if we're here, then we have a purpose in what to give each other and to learn from each other. And that's why we work with the Bedouin, that's why we work and document the stories. Document Bedouin heritage that's fast disappearing, document the stories of World War II heroines and heroes from Soviet Jewry and the story of Soviet Jewry too. That's why we document the stories of Ethiopian Jews. That's why we give a stage to groups and individuals whose stories are not well known in the Israeli mainstream. They're part of this mosaic, they're part of this dynamic tapestry of Israeli and Jewish identity. And in the different programming, in the 4 areas that we work in, community builds culture, builds identity, which includes documentation as an empowerment tool, community-based tourism, which is also economic empowerment, like the culinary queens of Yerucham, and visiting groups who come to hear the stories of people who came, like Avi Chai's parents in the 60s, or others who came even in the 50s, and who came also in later years. And then our work with the Bedouin, the incubator for Bedouin Jewish initiatives, is something where by working together, we listen, what are the needs that are arising? How can we meet them together? How can we create through joint action something that will change reality for the better for everyone involved? And the work with Russian speakers that is not only focused on the elderly and intergenerational encounters between the younger generation of all Israeli kinds of kids and the older people, but also parents and children. We reach thousands and thousands of people in these programs.
This is real tikkun olam, right? You are really repairing the world here, and I think it's an incredible.
It's something we're all doing together.
Oh, for sure. There's a joint venture. That is clear.
You know gematria, right? Mm-hmm. Gematria is the numerical value of Hebrew letters. Mm-hmm. The numerical value of yad in Hebrew, which is
14, right?
14.
Yad means hand.
Yeah. When you put hand in hand together, what do you get? 28,
yeah.
which is koach.
That's great. That's great.
Collaboration and joint action is a source of strength.
Wow, very nice. Well, how much is an elbow? Do you have to do this? Well, we do elbow to elbow, and we just want to thank you so much for spending the day with us and introducing us to all these wonderful people that we met and the stories, and it's only scratching the surface. So hopefully next year we'll have a chance when Ari and all of our friends out there get to come back and meet you in person, and that's going to be amazing.
And hopefully maybe we'll continue also.
We can do more seminars.
More seminars.
Ari, you heard it first here. Okay.